Hey everyone! I wanted to take a second to let you know that, as always, you can find a full list of triggers in the episode description, but this episode in particular discusses in depth some heavy topics, including death and loss, war, trauma, and historical Nazis. It's a wonderful episode, and I encourage you to keep listening, just with the knowledge that this episode gets pretty serious at points. If you need a palate cleanser afterward, though, you can head over to our Ko-Fi and listen to the bloopers for a small donation. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy. Hello, fellow adventurers! Welcome once again to Professional Questers, where I am your host, Chris, and I love tabletop role-playing games. Even more than that, I love hearing about the characters in those games. I cannot get enough, it is an addiction, but it's not a problem. At least I don't think it is. So therefore, I decided to interview people in the TTRPG world about the people that they love to play. Joining us today is Lilith. Lilith, what are your
Hi.
pronouns so that we know?
Hi. So my pronouns are she, her.
Wonderful. And can you tell us a bit about yourself, what you do, and then introduce us to the person that you play?
For sure. So I go by Lilith Wild on most platforms, and I am an AP performer. So I do some actual plays. I'm also a writer. I write a few. I'm working on writing a few modules for Candela Obscura, but mostly I have a very boring day job. I play a lot of TTRPGs. I started really playing them during the pandemic, like most people,
Mm-hmm.
but and started with D&D 5e, but it quickly got old. So now I'm playing so many other systems. It's just there are just so many good ones out there,
There
and my
are.
favorite is Candela Obscura.
Awesome. I love to hear that. I have yet to try Candela Obscura, but
Highly
in doing
recommend.
research for this episode, I did some looking into like the world lore and stuff, and
Mhm.
now I really want to play a game of it.
It's so good, and it's also really role play focused. So, like as a DM, if you dungeon master it, you don't roll any die ever. It's just your players rolling dice, and you react to them.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay. So we're gonna start with the basics like I do with everybody. Um, what are Sybilla's pronouns, first of
Sybille's
all?
pronouns are she, her.
Okay. And you said you play them in Candela Obscura, so
That's
then
right.
what is Sybilla's specialty?
So Sybille's specialty. So there in Candela, there's a main specialty, and then the one underneath that is not very well said. But yeah, she is a soldier specialty, which falls under the muscle category. But we modified the soldier a little bit for her sake because I decided she would be a sniper in the military. So the points that are in strike, which is things like punching, forcing doors open, I didn't give that to her. We moved that to control, which is finesse for things like shooting.
Okay. I personally I'm a fan of like modifying characters and stats, just like tweaking them a little bit like that for flavor.
Yep,
Flavor is one of my favorite things for characters. It's like
absolutely.
if you have to modify stats for flavor, I'd rather do that than try to modify the character to fit the stats.
100%.
Can you give us a physical description of Sybilla?
Yeah, so Sybilla is so in Candela, you have to have like a basic concept of a description. She doesn't really follow the basic concept in the end, because the concept I had written was falling apart at the seams gracefully. But physically, she has dark blonde hair that she usually ties up in some way. think Gibson Girl Edwardian kind of updos. So
Oh, hell yeah.
these really pretty locks that are piled high.
That's my
Um,
favorite fashion era, so
it's so good,
you have
right?
my attention.
She has very white skin, but the kind of white skin of somebody who doesn't see the sun much.
So
Um,
me.
yep, yeah, because
Sorry.
no, me too. Because she works nights, so she sleeps during the day. Um,
Mhm.
I swear she's not a vampire. She has
I mean, there's
blue.
nothing wrong with that, but
Yeah, so her
I get you.
eyes are a darker blue, kind of like the same gray blue as an ocean on a cloudy day. Um, she has a very hourglass figure because she wears corsets all the time. Her
Mhm.
day job, night job is is a sex worker. So her day-to-day wear tends to be corset, petticoat, stockings, and not much else. Um, she has some scars from the war. The most notable one is Lichtenberg figure, so those fractal burns from lightning that some people get on her
I
upper
love
left
those.
thigh. Yeah, on the upper left thigh, and she wears an old colonel's trench coat from the New Fair Army. So not the army that she was in, but the army of the country she's currently residing in for
Ooh,
incognito purposes, but it's basically a used coat
fair.
that's too large for her.
Okay. Okay. Cool. If you had to describe Sybilla's personality in 3 words, what would those words be?
Oh, let's see. I'd say fierce, strong-willed. That's one word, 2 words.
Only 1 word, it's fine.
Strong-willed and haunted.
Ooh, that's a cool combo.
Hmm. She's a very nice person, though.
You know, I find that the haunted ones, like especially at least in role play, like tabletop games and stuff, are usually the nice people. Like every once in a while I get an edgelord, but the the ones that have those, pasts that never leave them and stuff, they
Yep,
they just want to be regular people, so they do their best to be good people.
yep, absolutely.
What is Sybilla's story? Like, what do we know so far?
So, Sybilla's backstory that we know is that she was born and raised in Otherwhere, which is the enemy country that attacked New Fair in the Candela Obscura setting. Although I changed the name of Otherwhere because it just didn't click well with me that a country would call themselves that.
Mhm.
So I felt it was very much like a Germany Deutschland situation where other countries call it something that they wouldn't call themselves. And I named
Yeah,
the
yeah,
country Ravensile for the sake of having a country name.
yeah, totally.
So she's born and raised there in a faith that is no longer the dominant faith of the land, though it used to be, because the ascendancy that is the primary religion of New Fair and Hale also took over Otherwhere slash Ravensile millennia ago. And there's some practices like breath binding that are practiced that Sybille does not have any belief in because of this, because she was raised differently. She was raised in a community that was following that religion in a large family with 6 siblings. They were very working class, and after her father died in a factory accident, she went to work as a maid in an aristocratic household. And she and the daughter of the household had a thing.
Hmm.
And when the war broke out, the parents of the daughter of the household uh, decided to send her to nursing school and out as a combat nurse because they wanted to get her away from the corrupting maid. Um,
Yeah.
and so Sibylla went to the military, but not having the education of an aristocrat, she just joined as a soldier in the hopes of seeing her girlfriend again.
Mhm.
She survived the what's called the electric event in Candela. Uh, Very little is known about this electric event. We know that it is a secret weapon that was developed, that it had electricity, and that it was basically a nuke, because it ended the war in one strike and killed almost everything that was on the field that day. And so she's one of the few survivors of this. Her girlfriend died in it, so that was a good time.
Oh
Um,
no.
and we know that she has a lot of survivor's guilt from coming out of that alive, and most of her trench did not.
Oh
Um,
God.
and she was given work after that in a brothel because work is hard to find when you are an uneducated soldier that nobody wants to hire. It's a clean establishment, and it belongs to the partner of who would become her eventual lightkeeper. So through her employer, she met Rose Thorn, the lightkeeper of her circle, and joined Candela that way. We know that she lives in a pretty rundown apartment with no electricity, and has a stray cat that she feeds. And her neighbor, who's also a fellow Candela Obscura member, August, who's a magician, uh, they have a crush on each other right now. It's really kind of cute, but really
Aw.
awkward.
Aw. That'll play into another question that will come up for Sybille. I love that. Okay. So let's dig a little deeper now.
Mhm.
What drives Sybille as a person?
Well, one of her very first drives, after the war, a primary drive would be her survivor's guilt. It Having survived her lover, having survived her comrades, she doesn't want to throw away her life. So she very much has both survivor's guilt and a will to survive further because of what happened. But her survivor's guilt does prevent her from going home. She sort of has it in her mind that she can never go home. She also wants to find out what really happened during the electric event because it is a very secret weapon, and the weapon mysteriously disappeared right after it was used. Nothing is known about it. And it having ended most of the people she knew at the time, she wants to know what it is. So that is one of the things that drove her into the arms of Candela. And she also wants to know the cause of the last Great War, because the last Great War was caused by the sinking of the HMS Brilliance by the forces of Otherware, and that kind of sparked in a very our world World War One fashion, which was this, I forgot the name of the ship that got sunk, but there's a huge parallel between the two. Was it the Lusitania?
It might have been the Lusitania.
I think it was Lusitania, yeah. So, like, in a kind of parallel to that, the ship got sunk by the Otherwearing forces and it started the war. Um, but there is a rumor that there was something in the manifest that was a bleed specimen, so something otherworldly. And so Sybilla really wants to find out if that's the case, because if the war was like the cause for the war and for the unnecessary loss of life that happened is something that she wants to get to the bottom of.
I love those as drivers. They are, I mean, I wouldn't wish survivor's guilt on anyone, but as a narrative device, it makes for great role playing and great characters. And I can already kind of imagine the hardships that Sybilla has faced and maybe will face. And even from the sort of surface knowledge that I have of Candela Obscura, I'm like excited to hear more about her life and her experiences. And I guess that means we'll have to keep asking questions.
Yeah.
Is there anything that they truly like deeply fear?
So she has a phobia of electricity now. It's not the most severe thing. Like she can get into buildings that have electricity and whatnot, but hearing the buzzing does put her on edge a little bit because of
Mhm.
the electric event. and her country had no electricity at the time. So the first time she encountered it was the big weapon that killed everything. So she has a
Mm-hmm.
bit of trauma related to electricity and the sound of it. But her one of her biggest fears really is losing the people she has met and loved since the event, because she's already lost so many. And
Mm-hmm.
she also fears the judgment of her fellow countrymen. Like, her guilt is crushing, and she can't bring herself to face the people of her country. It's something that she deeply fears, coming back to the parents and the loved ones of people that were lost and being looked at as the one who survived. It's something that terrifies her, and why she doesn't and feels like she can't go home.
Would you say that Sybilla has any like obvious flaws or maybe minute subconscious flaws?
Uh, I would say that her obvious flaw is that she can be jealous and petty at times. As I said, she and another character have a crush on each other, and there was a session where somebody else flirted with August, with her
Oh
crush.
no.
She got so petty. So I mean, is that a flaw? I don't know, but it was fun to play with.
I guess
Um,
perspective.
yeah.
Depends on your perspective.
Um, a less obvious flaw, but a flaw if you know her, is that she tends to exert energy she doesn't have to help others. She'll take the burden of people onto her own shoulders and feels that she needs to carry it for them. And like, a line that I used in one of the games that I really liked, and my DM sort of quoted it at some point, was I will I will shoulder what you can't carry. And so that is, while admirable, a bit of a flaw, because she is putting way too much on herself.
Hmm.
And her biggest flaw, that doesn't really come out all that often, though, is that um, sometimes the soldier comes out. So she is a very kind person. She's a very uh, loving person who tries not to kill things, tries to pay attention, and keeps the soldier kind of behind a locked door in her mind. But sometimes the soldier comes out, and when the soldier comes out, she becomes cold blooded, and uh, like, killing is no longer a problem. And she just, it's kind of she compartmentalizes in such a way that
Hmm.
she no longer, it's not that she no longer distinguishes friend from foe, but she has had to shoot deserters that she knew who they were during the war. So she has shot people she knows. So it no longer becomes the same issue. She becomes very cold, and, well, she becomes a weapon in a way. She becomes a sharpshooter or sniper.
Has this weaponized version of her, this soldier psyche, has it ended up hurting people that she cares about? Or is that something that she's afraid of happening?
She's afraid of that happening. It hasn't happened yet that it hurt somebody she cared about, though she did just kneecap someone in the last session, so it does come
Oh
out.
goodness.
And the thing is, I think what she fears more than hurting her friends, because her friends tend to be hurt before this part of her comes out. It's sort of like, if she's the last one standing is kind of the scenario where that personality tends to come out. So
Okay.
um the likeliness of her hurting somebody she knows is not quite as high, but she fears that they will see that part of her and leave her for it, from seeing what she can become.
That's valid. I relate that to kind of the idea of like being afraid of being a monster.
Yes.
Whether you are or aren't is irrelevant. If you think you're a monster, there's that fear that you'll be a monster. either towards or in front of the people that you care about.
Yeah,
And that is like the last thing you want.
100%. Like you want to make sure that they don't see that side of you.
Hmm. So about like the concept and inspiration of Sybilla,
Mhm.
what was the first thing that came to your mind when you found out that you would be playing someone in a Candela Obscura game?
Well, I was very excited to be playing, and initially was hesitating between so many options because there's such good, rich roleplay opportunities. But reading through Soldier, my favorite anime came to mind, which is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Yes.
And so she's a little bit very much based on Riza Hawkeye. um,
Oh my gosh.
because best character, I love her so much. Uh, but there is an episode where Riza Hawkeye is just cleaning her gun and telling Edward Elric about the Ishmael War of Extermination, and she's very aware that they committed war crimes, and so she wants to help Roy Mustang take down the government that committed the atrocities, but she's fully aware that once they've taken down who needs to be taken down and the militarized government is gone, she will probably be tried as a war criminal. And that kind of awareness is something I really wanted to give Sybilla.
Hmm.
So, because usually in other games in D&D and Vampire and whatever, I tend to play fallen aristocracy, nobility on the run, and so I went a very different direction with Sybilla. Um, and I also really wanted to explore this otherwhere because it's very ambiguous in the book. Otherwhere is just called Otherwhere. We know it's to the north and that they attacked during the last Great War, and that's about it. So I really wanted to explore that a little more. And I am the kind of role player that will submit 20 pages or more to my DM. So I submitted an entire country with geography and government written out to my dungeon master for this. um,
I love that. I
yeah.
love that. I'm not that kind of player, but I love it.
Yeah, and I really wanted to explore the like soldier struggling with adapting to a time of peace.
Hmm. I 100% think that is something that doesn't get explored enough
Hmm.
outside of like, the I think the general public loves to forget about veterans when they come home.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
so anything to give even an individual a better understanding or way to relate
Hmm.
to those, soldiers who have seen horrific things.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, maybe I only saw it in my imagination, but I put myself in what I imagined was their shoes, and I was, you know,
Yep,
in a
absolutely.
whole other kind of scenario
Hmm.
and a horrifying world.
Yep,
And that's kind of the point of a lot of role play too. I know,
for
like
sure.
you explore things on purpose sometimes because you want to understand them better.
Absolutely. And one thing that was really helpful for me with Sybilla is that there's a war museum that I went to many years ago, but it sort of stuck with me where they had a World War I trench replica that you could walk
Oh,
through. But the
oh wow.
replica was really accurate and they had sounds playing. So explosions,
Oh
people screaming.
wow.
The walls would kind of vibrate slightly whenever there was a detonation, and it was harrowing to walk through that. And
Oh my
so
god.
that it was a trench warfare in Candela, like this is canon that there were trenches. And so
Hmm.
that really came to mind because I went to that museum when I was like 14 and it just stuck with me. Um,
Wow.
yeah. So that's something that I sort of base the horrors on because I have never experienced trench or warfare personally, but it's something I drew inspiration from.
So it seems like those experiences from your past kind of made you decide to develop this character idea
Yeah.
further as you became more invested in the concept that you had sort of settled on.
100%. Yeah.
Uh, you explained to me previously, as we were, talking back and forth
Hmm.
beforehand, that Sybille is an exploration of how war takes a toll on a person's psyche. And I know we touched on this a couple minutes ago too.
Yeah.
Um, is that something you wanted to explore within yourself, or something that you sought to understand better from an outside perspective? Or both? It could be both.
So, not really within myself because I am lucky and keeping my fingers crossed that it stays that way, live in a country that is peaceful and I don't have to go to war. So, from that point of view, I can't really say that I can explore that because I don't have the actual real life lived experience for it. But I am German, and we all know how that history went from 1939 to 1945. Uh,
Hmm.
and my great grandfather was a conscript in the Wehrmacht. Um, Unfortunately, he passed away when I was 9. So I didn't get to pick his brain about all the things that happened um, because as a 9-year old, you don't understand it anyway. And
Hmm.
I'm sort of sad that I lost the opportunity to speak to him about these things because he was a prisoner of war for 10 years from the Soviets.
Oh, wow.
And you'll notice that the war was not 10 years long, so he was kept long after the
Yeah.
war. So, not a good time for the poor man. And um, he was a carpenter by trade, so like literally a conscript. He had little to he had no interest in the war itself. And um, like I hear stories secondhand, of course, but of things like the prisoner of war experience of being moved from place to place, um, like once in France, then having your battalion moved to the Eastern Front and Russia, and how much that sucked. And also about the Russian part. Again, this is secondhand. My mother told me this, that her grandfather told her, was that at one point they were retreating and there were more uh, German soldiers shot and killed by Germans than by Russians because they were killing deserters. So that sounds like a great time. Um, and yeah, German history has a lot of unfortunate guilt and weight that comes with it
Mhm.
because of what our country did in the past. And that sort of guilt is something that I did want to explore deeper, but from the perspective of somebody who participated in what would make someone complicit and guilty. Um, my direct family, so my own grandparents, were not Nazis, they were far too young. Um, but on my grandfather's side, there were a couple in the family, and any German who tells you there were no Nazis in their family is lying to themselves, unfortunately. Like, I know that my great uncle, I think, was a card carrying Nazi in a town of 15 people, so that means next to
Oh,
nothing,
wow.
but still. Like, I don't think they ever met a Jewish person, to be honest, because bumfuck nowhere in Bavaria. Um, but yeah, like it's really interesting because on my grandfather's side, they were 5 boys. And so the mentality was much more attractive to them. Whereas on my grandmother's side, it was all daughters. And the Nazis had some great plans for women, not. So there was a lot less buying into the ideology. And my great grandfather, whose stories I've heard passed down, are from my grandmother's side. So it's also the side that was not into this ideology. So it's an interesting thing to explore for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I've never actually heard, especially about the Germans being shot as deserters. Like, I watch a lot of documentaries, but there's only so much documentaries can tell you in, an hour and a half
A hundred
max.
percent. Yeah.
Hmm. And my history is from the American perspective
Mhm.
of, my grandparents who were children,
Hmm.
children and or almost draftable during
Okay.
the war.
Wow.
Um, yeah, my grandfather was drafted like right as the war was ending. So he just missed it.
Whoa. Okay. I'm
Hmm.
lucky. My grandfather was 12, so he was safe.
Um, yeah, but my grandmother's brother,
Hmm.
um, he I think he enlisted, but he went to England to help build planes.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah, so we have family members who were involved in the war, but again, it's from the, the Allied side. So
Yep.
hearing the, firsthand, even secondhand stories of the Axis sides,
Hmm.
a lot of these documentaries don't cover that because the Axis is the villains. You don't want to hear from the side of the villains.
Of course. Yeah. And it is interesting because my brother is a historian. He's doing his doctoral studies in military history.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool.
and one of the things that he's researching on the side for funsies is into this great uncle of ours who we know for a fact was a card carrying Nazi, because we want to know what happened and what was done,
Hmm.
because the first step towards reparation is knowing what you did in a
Yeah,
way. Um,
absolutely.
and while we didn't do it directly, my brother and I, it's still something that helps us understand the past and not repeat the mistakes of the past. Not that, I mean,
Absolutely.
my brother and I would probably have been killed for being communists, but different story. Um, and yeah, like I do know that my grandfather was only 12, but one of his older brothers did enlist in the Luftwaffe because he wanted to be a pilot. I don't know how much of the ideology he was interested in, but he wanted to fly planes. And the only way you could fly
Mm,
planes during
yeah,
Nazi Germany was to enlist in the Luftwaffe and be a Nazi. So there's a really interesting mix of perspectives. Um,
absolutely.
and my brother firmly believes that the excuse of, but I was given orders, is not a valid excuse for
Oh,
anything.
absolutely not.
So even if all my grandfather's brother wanted to do was pilot planes, uh, shooting people is not something that's forgivable, whether you buy into the Nazi ideology or not. So it's not something that we can just sweep under the table.
Yeah, it is unfortunate that the spectrum of belief in the ideology does not excuse the actions that you willingly partook in.
Absolutely. I will say, while it doesn't excuse anything, it does, to me, feel more harrowing that some people have done
Yes.
these things when they did not follow the ideology, uh,
Yeah.
because of risk to their own person, like the desertion thing and things like that. So that's a
Hmm.
really frightening thought,
It's
for
those
sure.
crazy strong motivators in that incredibly negative way.
Yeah, very much so.
Uh, do you find it like do you find that exploring it through Sybilla and then also relating that through learning about your own history and trying to understand the mistakes of the past and all that stuff, does that bring you any closure in any kind of way?
Uh, calling it closure, I wouldn't necessarily call it that, but it does help me process some of the difficult feelings to a certain extent because, as I said, there is a lot of guilt that comes with being German. I lived in Japan a few years, but now I live in North America. And I did spend my high school in Canada. Um, high school kids are mean, and people kept reminding
Yeah.
me of the fact that, oh yeah, you were on the bad side of history. It's like, gee, thanks. Um, and it was, it does bring me a sense of closure in that sense for sure, because it allows me to sort of close the chapter on guilt that I personally do not need to feel.
Mhm.
because I wasn't involved. My actual grandparents weren't involved. My mother wasn't involved. Like, I don't need to, like, I didn't personally invade Poland kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there is a sense of guilt that is appropriate to have, but not to the point that I used to feel it in high school, because I had kids full on asking me when I was 15, is like, so why did Germany follow the Nazis? And it's like, this is things that I can't explain. I'm 15. Like, what? And I remember there was a student whose grandfather had survived the Holocaust, and that was a fun conversation to have at 15.
Oh,
Um,
no.
yeah. So there is a sense of I don't know if there's closure per se, but it does allow me to explore these difficult feelings of guilt and to sort of navigate through how complicated war actually is, because
Mhm.
why the Nazis got elected, there's more than one reason.
Yeah.
We're seeing it unfold in America right now.
Mhm.
Fascism doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow erosion of things. And
Yeah.
so the reasons are myriad and complex and interconnected. And so it's a way for me to explore that without necessarily having to go back to the high school days of explaining to somebody directly. It's like, well, the
Yeah.
causes were this and this and this and this. So on a more
Yeah.
personal level.
People wanna put things in boxes with neat labels of, like, black and white, good and
Yep.
evil, and that's rarely ever the case. It is shades of gray across an entire spectrum, and, you
100%.
know, often it's really like, the straw that broke the camel's back.
For sure.
It takes that impetus, but it it's not always just one big thing.
Exactly. And like, this is the big flaw I find in history documentaries. They don't tend to focus on the finer points. Like, if you think of things like World War I, it did not need to happen at all. It
Oh,
was
absolutely
a
not.
family feud between the royal families of different countries. And so they
Mhm.
sent hundreds of thousands of people to die over a family feud. Like, it was
Yep.
stupid. Um, but
Alliances.
ridiculous. But there were small things that added up on top of that. Like, the French and the Germans just dislike each other by nature. Still the case today. um, there's just these, like, some tensions that were an undercurrent that made it easier to send people to war, right? It's
Mhm.
much easier to send somebody to war if there's an undercurrent of belief that no, no, we're doing the right thing. Um, but for that, there's reasons that pile up. Living in Japan was really interesting for that, though, because while in Germany, we were taught very early on about the history of Nazis. In Japan, it's very whitewashed. Not in the sense of white people, but they don't tend to go deep into what happened in the world wars. So it's a very different perspective as well, that I thought was interesting. I thought it was a little disturbing, as it was something else
Guilty
for me.
parties can often do that, though. They don't like to focus on the fact that they were involved,
Yeah,
and they just kind of, I feel like, oftentimes can fall into the camp of like, we're we're not going to sweep it under the rug, but we're not going to really look it in the eye either.
yeah, absolutely.
Just kind of walk by it and nod and then keep going.
Yeah, well, it depends on who the politicians are in Japan as well. I remember in the years of Shinzo Abe, that guy was terrible for uh, for Japanese history, because he put in an educational reform that completely whitewashed the history of World War II, which is like, and
Ooh.
suddenly nuclear bombs. We don't know why. Um, it's
Oh
not
no.
it's not simplified quite to that extent, but war crimes, what war crimes? Um, and
Yeah.
I remember reading an article where he basically told the Korean comfort women who were stuck living in Japan, um, to basically go fuck themselves. He didn't say it like that, but basically told them that they wanted it, kind of thing. It horrible man. I
Ooh,
am I'm not unhappy that he passed away. Like I yeah,
valid.
yeah.
So, in the setting of Candela Obscura, the language of the country is described as blunt and succinct,
Yes.
since that made communication easier with the refugees who flooded into New Fair. Does that strike a chord with you as someone who you've said to me has learned several languages?
Yeah, so it it does strike a chord, but not in the way that one would think necessarily, because I am fluent in English, French, and German. I like to call German my mother tongue and French my father tongue because my parents are respectively German and French Canadian. So I grew
Oh,
up
okay.
speaking both the languages, and English is sort of the happy in between. And I don't have an accent when I speak any of those three languages, although there are days when I'm not trilingual with an I, I'm trilingual with a Y because I can't remember
Oh,
any of them. Or like somebody
that's
asks me
fair.
for a word
Languages are
and
hard, man.
it's like when you speak multiple languages sometimes you're looking for a word and you're like I can only think of it in French. Fuck.
Yep.
But I do have a bit of a level of the alienation from when I was living in Japan. I have an okay level of Japanese. I am nowhere near fluent, um, but I do have a very good pronunciation of Japanese. I lived in the Kansai region, and people kept telling me, "He's like, you sound like you're from Kansai," and I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I picked up the accent." But this had the unfortunate side effect that people would speak to me in very fast Japanese, and I was like, "I cannot
Oh,
follow."
no.
Like, please slow down. So I was constantly going like, like one more time, please. Um, and it was very, very awkward on that sense. But one thing that has always irked me growing up when I was in high school in Canada was this whole idea of Germans aren't funny. We are, our humor just doesn't translate well because one of the things Germans love is puns. You try translating
Oh,
a German pun
okay.
into English and see how that goes.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Puns don't translate well, I feel like, between
they
any
just
languages.
oh, they absolutely don't. And so like Germans are
Even
actually quite funny in my personal very German opinion. Um but other countries have the stereotype that they're not. And so I do play into that with Sybille. I gave her a sense of humor that no one else gets on purpose based off of that. So I'm having a lot of fun with that. And Sybille kind of falls between the two extremes of I speak the languages of this country and without an accent, nobody thinks that I'm from elsewhere. And being in Japan and not being able to blend in because, well, I'm tall, blonde, and white. Um,
mhm.
and so the difference between those two extremes is basically where Sybilla falls into. Because in Japan, as a Westerner, you cannot blend in if you tried. Um, yeah.
Yeah. I've seen many a vlog of, Westerners who go to
L-
Japan for, whatever reason, teaching English or
yeah,
they married a Japanese person and they're like, "Yeah, no, I stand out like a sore thumb."
absolutely. Although I really love that they're like, I kind of want to go back. I miss it so much. um,
I definitely would love to visit. I don't know if I could live there though.
it's it's hard. But having already lived in multiple countries growing up, both Germany and Canada, moving countries wasn't the end of the world for me, first of all. Being an
Fair.
expat can be hard on other people. For me, that bit was easier, especially that now we have things like video calls. So it's not like in the
Mhm.
90s where if you were an
Yeah.
expat, you had like one phone call a week and you couldn't see
Oh,
your
yeah.
family's faces. So living abroad is easier today. Um, but I did study Japanese culture and Japanese language in university, so it did give me uh, a head start in living there, and my expectations of living there were not dreamy um,
Hmm.
anime fantasy, which I think made it a
Yeah,
lot easier to adapt than if I was just going because I like anime.
for sure.
Mhm.
Did your experience and relationship with language, like, did that color the way that Sybille sees communication, like, beyond things like humor or anything, just like, um, does she have resentment towards people who take it like take the language for granted or anything like that?
Not that so much, although she does have one of her pet peeves is when people call her country that I called Ravansile, when they call it otherwhere, because she's like, that's not what the country's called.
Mhm.
I'm not otherwherein, I'm Ravensilen. Like, please get it right.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
also gave her a very distinct accent, a very
I was
German
wondering about
accent.
that.
Yeah, very, very German accent because I mean, it is Candela does take inspiration from real world World War I.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
and so Otherwhere is kind of made out to be the German side, whereas Hale is the British side in a way, like very
Mm.
inspired by it anyway. So linguistically, I decided to make Otherwhere more Germanic uh, in language because I speak it, among other things, which made
Yeah.
it easier. But yeah, so I gave her an accent on that level, which is fun.
What is Sybille's relationship with the powers that exist in New Fair?
So the powers that exist in New Fair are complicated as per the book. There is a lot of corruption and um, like seedy undercurrents to things like politicians and whatnot. One of the organizations that features in the core rulebook is Eons, so the Exoteric Order of New Sciences, which seeks to combine bleed, so all these mysterious phenomena, with actual science and combine them into things. Um, it is suspected that they built the weapon that caused the electric event, and Sybille hates their guts. Not because of the electric event, but because they held her as a prisoner of war for a year after the war ended
Oh.
because she survived.
Oh,
Yeah. Because they're like, oh, cool,
not cool
survivor.
for
What were
him.
the effects of this weapon? So she
Oh
had a bad time with
no.
them. And they're sort of made out to be bad guys in the core rule book, though I think that that's open to interpretation because it is from the point of view of Candela.
Yeah, it seemed like in my research that they were intended, at least by the creators, to kind of serve as like a morally gray, like you make the choice if you like them or not, but it's a little
Yeah.
bit bad guy coded.
It's very mad guy coded. Like the mood is like I think they describe it as like mood as being like beakers and like science labs basically. So yeah, it is definitely mad scientist coded, but there's also the fact that this is written by canonically the book is technically written by members of Candela Obscura who don't get along with Eons because they
Sure.
disagree on a moral perspective. So who knows how much of that judgment is not just personal prejudice, right? So you can play along with that
Fair,
a
yeah.
lot. But Sybille does not like Eons.
Yeah, so then working for Candela Obscura then would create even more of a conflict for them in addition to
Absolutely.
already being persecuted as a foreigner and
Yeah,
a participant in the war from the other side.
100%. And it almost pushed her into the arms of Candelo, really, um, because she found out about bleed through her stint as a prisoner of war at Eons, because Otherware does not have any knowledge of this thing. It's bleed isn't they're very scientific culture. I really did base them off like World War I Germany, so they make
Mhm.
aircrafts. They're very advanced in physics, but things like bleed and superstition is not one of their things. So she really found out about that through being locked up by eons, and that sort of pushed her into Candela Obscura's arms because they explore these things further, right?
I find that highly ironic.
Yeah.
The villains create the heroes.
Yeah, yeah, basically. I know I didn't think of it that way, but you are right.
Have you found parallels between Sybilla's experiences and your own? Beyond, or I guess, other than what we've already, discussed?
So yeah, so the guilt part of being the enemy or being on the wrong side of history is definitely a parallel that I have with Sybille. Um, like that is probably the most intense one informing my experiences. There is the one of being judged in a foreign land because there are multiple kinds of judgment you can face. There is benign and there is less kind. Like in Japan, some people are like when I would speak Japanese, I'd get all the "Nihongo jozu," which is like, "Oh my god, your Japanese is so good." It's like, okay, thanks, and that's a very benign kind of judgment of like, "Oh, that's cool. This person is trying." And then there's the
Mhm.
meaner judgments of, "Well, you can't get anything right because you're this other thing." Which I had so many passive aggressive colleagues in the office. Um, but
Ooh.
it's not monolithic. Like when you live in a as an expat in another country, not everyone is going to believe you're great for moving there, and not everyone's going to believe uh you're a representative of a horrible culture that they don't like. You get a bit of both, and so there is some of that informs Sibylla's world as well.
So New Fair, while it's brightly lit with like electricity, it is kind of a dark, horrible place for a lot of people, and it's hard not to make connections between that world and our current world.
Yeah.
Does Sybilla worry about the future like many of us in reality do?
I'll be honest with you, that is not something that she really worries about. She's very much a day-to-day person because surviving the electric event, she's basically on borrowed time in her own mind. Um, but also, I myself, Lilith the player, cannot think more than 5 minutes ahead of time. So my worries
You
about
know
the
what? That's
future
relatable.
aren't particularly strong simply because I can't think that far ahead. And so that does color Sibyl a little bit. This is kind of player bleed into the character. Um, because New Fair doesn't have big climate change issues or something to worry about, which is about the only thing for the future that I'm concerned about. Because everything else, I'm like, screw it, it'll happen if it happens.
Yeah,
Because I
fair.
can't think that far ahead. But climate change is the one thing where I'm like, nah, we should work on that. But everything else, I'm kind of like, future, what future? Like people come to, I've heard people talk about a 5-year plan. I'm like, what is that? It's
What,
like,
so much can happen in 5 years. It's like I'm not making a plan for that far out.
right? And they're like, yeah. So in 5 years, I want to be like at this point in my life. I'm like, I don't know at what point in my life I'll be in tomorrow. Like what?
Exactly. It's like, where I thought I would be 5 years from now, 5 years ago, not where I am now.
Yep,
So it's like
exactly.
I don't see the point of it anymore because there is no guarantee that I will be where I would like to be.
Yep, 100%.
Do you think though that it's I know this might not have been part of your like Lilith's thought
Mhm,
process, but having survived the electric event,
mhm.
do you think Sybilla has a kind of perspective of maybe I've already survived one of the worst things that could have happened, so, you know, the future means nothing because how could it possibly be any worse?
There is an aspect of that for sure. I don't think Sibylla thinks that kind of weapon will be made again, which, as we know from the world's modern nuclear arsenal, is not the case. It's like, oh, look at what that weapon did. Let's build more.
Yep.
But Sybille is no longer in the military. This is not a perspective that she has, and so definitely she's like, oh, this won't happen again. It is called canonically the Last Great War, and she sort of does buy into this is the last time this sort of thing will happen, for sure.
That's ironic too, because there's a parallel there, because the First World War was called the War to End All Wars, and
Exactly.
we all know what happened after that.
Yep. Fun times.
The funnest.
The funnest times. Yep. Well, and that's exactly it. Like I figure that the soldier that survives a war that was harrowing and horrifying does not think another one will be coming.
Yeah.
It's different today with the internet and things and the ability to read newspapers from around the world, but historically, the people who survived World War One did not think they'd be fighting World War Two, and so there is an aspect of that.
I feel like it's almost maybe like this was so horrendous, I can't fathom it happening again. Like,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's an aspect of that,
yeah.
and it was so horrendous. We know how many people died. Why would we do this again?
Yes,
Right?
exactly. But the people who want power, they don't think like that.
Nope.
On a more positive note, though,
Yes, I'm so sorry. This got dark.
no, it's fine. Dark, dark subjects are not something that's new to this podcast,
Mhm.
so don't worry about it. So, what is something that Sybilla has done that you, like the player Lilith, are proud of?
So I'm very proud of. I mentioned this before. She does support her circle a lot, to her detriment. But I am proud of her for being very selfless on that level. Um, she helped. I don't want to call her the linchpin of the group. Like the group wouldn't fall apart if she leaves. But there is a member of Candela of our circle that after one of the assignments was ready to leave. She was traumatized by it, and that's where the line of anything you can't handle, anything you can't shoulder, I will take on came in. So I'm very proud of her for that. I'm also proud of that line coming out mid role play by itself.
It's a great line.
Thank you. So that sort of selflessness is something that I'm very proud of because I don't know if in real life I would be able to handle that. I don't have the spoons.
That's fair. Spoons are tricky.
Yeah, and so I really admire her in a way.
I admire that too, because I as well also often run short on spoons, and I have to, you know, very much manage how I use them, and sometimes I just don't have the spoons.
Neurodivergency fun times.
Yep. So, last question for you, Lilith,
Hmm.
for now.
Yep.
What advice would you give Sybilla?
Very simple. I would tell her to forgive herself, um, to let go of some of the past because staying stuck in it will get her nowhere.
I really love that because it's simple, but it's so deeply profound too.
Yeah, no, definitely something that I don't think she will ever do, but it's something I would advise her to.
Yeah, easier said than done. One of those
Yeah,
things.
absolutely.
Rainbow Dice Club presents Tales of Three. In the world of Elisora, practicing magic is more than just frowned upon, it's demonized. The reason? 762 years ago, the world almost ended with magic and the gods as its root cause. Today, on the continent of Thylacer, magic is heavily monitored and presided over by the greedy hands of a monarchy, who only allows its people to cast up to a certain tier, rendering things like teleportation and planar travel highly illegal. When Ivy steps through a portal and lands in Thylacer, her meeting with Ferris and Alara is a fortuitous accident. Three strangers with forbidden magical secrets of their own unwittingly stumble upon a plot to destroy the world as we know it. Their search for the truth will have them questioning everything they think they know. And as sinister forces move to keep them apart, these three unlikely heroes find their meeting was no accident at all. Join us every Friday as we tell a tale of daring adventures, forbidden magic, epic battles, betrayal, love, loss, and of course, Dungeons and Dragons. Find us at Rainbow Dice Club on most socials and at Tales of Three wherever you get your podcasts.
So it is time to say goodbye to Lilith for a little bit while we talk to our other special guest, Sybille, played by the lovely Lilith. Hi, Sybille.
Yeah, hello.
How are you today?
I'm doing all right. Had a good sleep in after work, but yeah, doing okay. No assignment on the horizon right now.
Nice, nice. Get a good break. Uh, can I ask you some questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
What made you join Candela Obscura?
That's a little more complicated. Yeah. So Candela is the purview of my employer's partner. She's a lightkeeper, and I sort of came across Candela through her. However, the phenomena of things like bleed and the causes of the war and the electric event are things that interested me beforehand. So when Candela offered the option to explore that further, I chose to take the opportunity. Um, yeah, and now I'm part of the Circle of Smoke and Soil, and uh, it's through the goodwill of my employer that I found the circle itself. Um, and yeah, there's finding out about bleed was not a good time for me. So it's good to be able to fight back. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So finding out about things like bleed and stuff, how do you deal with the horrors and things that you encountered during your work with Candela?
Uh, I kind of hate to admit it, but I don't really deal with it. The big war veteran secret is lock it away and never think of it again. So there's a bit of that going on, I admit, which is probably not healthy, but yeah, it's my way of processing things. There are the memories come back when they need to, um, and information that I need comes back when I need it. I try to not access the memories outside of that.
Find a lot of people take that approach, and while it's not invalid, there are some that would say it's not healthy, but I am not here to judge. I am not one to judge.
Thank you.
I am not in that position. Um, as someone who has done that many times.
I appreciate that.
What's the most terrifying experience that you've had while working in the circle?
I would say the most terrifying experience was when uh, we found an underground cult is not the right word, but ritual that we interrupted. And the ritual was not the problem in and of itself, but everyone was in grave danger. Almost everyone perished. And I mean, we did not. We made it out alive in the end, but it was very reminiscent of the war for me. And it was very difficult because I didn't want my circle to see that part of myself. And the extremely terrifying part is that one of our members, August, he sort of had a shadow entity come out of him, multiple shadows, who spoke through him with different animal heads. It hard to describe, but it made one of our members almost quit. It was harrowing in its own way.
I'm glad you all survived, at least.
I am too. I wasn't sure we'd get out of it. I'll be honest.
How do you feel about the other members of the circle?
So the other members are wonderful people. We have Eileen, who is a former detective of the OUP, so the Office of, what was it? Unexplained Phenomena, I think. She's a former detective from them. She's now a private detective, and she's fantastic at finding clues and reading people. She's wonderful for that. I met her through my line of work. She was a client of mine at some point, but she's a wonderful person. I get along with her quite well. We have August, who's a professional magician by trade, and my neighbor. We get along quite well, and he likes to cook for me sometimes. It's very sweet. And then we also have Poppy. She's a different case. I do not dislike Poppy, but Poppy is almost a phenomena in and of herself. She doesn't really fit in culturally, not like me, not in a foreign sense, but because she's, I guess, a wild child would be the best way of describing her. So we have to do a lot of educating as we go along with Poppy. Things like what's appropriate to dress as, or for a formal event, and things like that. What not to say at a party. So yeah, Poppy's a little more difficult. And I had to bail her out of jail, actually, not so long ago. So yeah, Poppy is hard to deal with, but not necessarily in a bad way.
So what keeps you with them?
I still haven't gotten the answer to my questions. So I stay with Candela to find out more. To find out more about what happened in the war, and also I feel like the world needs protecting from bleed, and if I can help in that way, I want to help. And I started to really care about my circle, so I want to protect them, and I can only protect them if I'm at assignments with them.
Is there anyone you feel you've particularly bonded with?
I may have bonded with August a little. He's very, very kind, very shy, and very sweet. And he's always treated me with an unparalleled level of kindness. We get along very well. I adore that he cooks for me, because I cannot cook at all, more than a can of beans from the trenches. So it's wonderful to have someone who likes to cook for you. We may or may not have kissed, but he's very, very shy. So it's slow going, but it's nice.
That's lovely. Is maintaining morality something that you value in your line of work?
That's a difficult question to answer. I do value it. That doesn't mean I can follow it, if that makes sense. I value morality. I can't always follow it. I mean, I've been through times where I had to set morality aside entirely during the war. So, yeah, you, just because you believe in something doesn't mean you get to follow it necessarily. And with things like bleed, things get a lot more complicated. It's not black and white. So, yeah, it's a struggle. I will say that going through the war makes it a little easier for me probably to set morality aside than for some of our other members. It simply doesn't register the same way. But yeah, I want to follow morality if I can.
So I imagine it involves making a lot of difficult choices in order to do what you believe is right.
Yeah. Yeah, difficult choices and sometimes difficult calculations too. We had to rescue one of our party members, and at one point, Poppy, and we weren't sure if what we were doing to try and rescue her would end her life or not. So, I mean, I pulled the trigger anyway, but somebody had to make the decision and take the responsibility of if this ends in failure, Poppy would be dead. So, yeah, it can be difficult.
Absolutely. Do you have anything that you do to cope with the stresses of everyday life or, the hardships of your job, your role with Candela, um, the derision from the residents of New Fair, things like that?
I tend to sleep a lot when I'm not working.
That is so valid.
Uh, when I sleep, I don't have to face anyone, so it makes things a little easier.
Mhm.
I do have nightmares sometimes, but it's still easier to face a dream than to face living people sometimes. Um, and other ways to cope are things like, I mean, August is just a wonderful person. He takes me out on things like picnics, and it's a sweet way to cope. It's idyllic in a way.
That's lovely. It's good that, again, as much as sleeping to cope is, it can be nice. It's also something that, in excess might not be the healthiest. So I'm glad that you have another way to deal with things, and that it comes from another person who is kind and cares about you is all the better.
Yes, and I deeply appreciate it. And I, I don't feel like I deserve his kindness really, but it is not unwelcome. Uh, it's very, very sweet and encouraging in a way that I haven't felt in a very long time.
I love to hear that. When you imagine your ideal life, like the one that you wish you had, what does it look like to you?
I'll be honest, I don't think I had a life I wish I had. Um, I I got out of school very young. Uh, I was 12, um, so education was never something I envisioned for myself. Um, for a time when I was working at the Falkenhayn household, I did picture myself as potentially having a life with Franziska, but that did not pan out. And Franziska is no longer with us. So that's not a life that I could imagine in the future. Uh, During the war, I did not know what to picture beyond the trench, and now I don't know. I don't know what life I would have wanted for myself. I sort of skipped from moment of life to next moment in life.
Understandable in a way. I think it's very I have a lot of thoughts on that, but they're
I'm
all kind
sorry.
of jumbled in my head. That's okay. That's okay. Um, maybe if I sort out my thoughts, I'll come back to it. But um, in my next question, despite all of the awful things that you have gone through, what is something you've done that you are proud of?
That I'm proud of. Um, that's a hard one. I sort of want to say surviving, but surviving is kind of the cop-out answer, really. Um, because, well, here I am alive. I mean, I could do something about it, but I don't feel like it. But I don't know that it's something to be proud of necessarily. So I don't know that that's an honest answer. Um, yeah. What am I proud of? I get. I'm proud of the relationships I've achieved with my circle. Um, I'm proud of how tight knit we've become, and of how I can help support my fellow members, I think.
That's honorable.
Thank you.
I think, and maybe honorable is not the right word, but like I think that that is a valuable thing to be proud of. It is relationships with others are very important, especially
Mhm.
for me personally. They are as well. Um, and I know I've voiced my opinions on many things in this interview already, but I I think that that being something that you identify as something that you're proud of, it speaks to me as well. It resonates with me. There's the word that I was looking for, and I really respect that.
Thank you. But yeah, some of the earlier questions were very valid as well.
If you could change anything at all and have it stick, what would it be?
Could you elaborate on what exactly you mean with change anything at all? Like, how big a scale are we talking here?
It can be big or small, now, then, here, there, up, down, left, right,
I,
anything that you can think of.
I mean, I, I guess my greatest wish would be that the electric event had never happened, that the war had never happened. Uh, yeah, preventing having no war. I think no war would have been the one thing that I would like to have had stick. It
Mhm.
was not a good time for anyone, I don't think. So, yeah, I think if I could go back in time and magically prevent it, I probably would. I would try.
I think a lot of people would.
Yeah.
So this question is a little, I don't want to say it's complicated, but it's kind of a two-parter.
Hmm.
Um, requires maybe a little bit of speculation or
Okay.
hypotheticals. But firstly,
Hmm.
if you had the chance to go back to Otherwhere, I'm sorry, I cannot remember the name that it actually has, but
Ravansal.
um, Ravensile?
Yeah.
Okay. If you could go back there, would you take that opportunity?
I'll be honest, I don't know. One part of me wants to. Um, I have not seen or heard from family members in years now, um, since the war. So part of me is curious to see how they are, if they still are. Um, but going back would also mean facing the people, facing parents, loved ones, of people that have died next to me or that I've killed. And it's not something that I want to go through. I probably fear that more than any bleed incident that you can think of. So I don't know that I would take it. I'm torn on the idea. I think I'd rather have a letter back from home than go back myself. Yeah.
That's understandable and not an invalid view.
Mm.
I would be terrified to face the
Yeah.
loved ones of people that I potentially saw die.
Yeah. It's. I, I not only fear their judgment necessarily, I also fear the questions. I still don't know
Mhm.
why I survived. So I have a feeling that if I went, I would probably be asked about it a lot. I have no answers to give, so it's daunting, I think is the word.
Yep, I understand that. I completely do. Um, so the next part of this question is a little, it might hit a nerve a little bit, and I'm sorry if it does. You can tell me if you don't want to answer this,
Mm,
if it's too hard or too raw.
mm,
Um, if you found yourself back in Revencile,
mhm.
oh, what would you do?
I'll be honest, I don't know. I don't really want to think about being back, so I haven't really thought of it very, very much because yeah, I, I don't think I'm ready to go back. And so thinking of what I might do is not something I want to think about, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I'm,
yeah,
I,
that's okay. That's
mhm.
okay.
I'm sort of scared to think about it.
I completely understand. We all have things that we're scared to think about and scared to do,
Mm,
and you're not alone in those feelings. And I want to communicate that it's valid to feel that way.
thank you. Appreciate that.
We have some rapid fire questions now.
Yeah, okay.
What's your favorite color?
Uh, Green.
Ooh, okay. Any type of green?
Like those bright emerald greens from like forests kind of things.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah.
uh, what is your favorite animal?
Okay. So on a personal level, my favorite animal is probably uh, my cat. But my cat aside, I really, really like weasels. They're really
Oh,
cute.
aw. um, what is a pet peeve of yours?
People calling Ravanzal otherware.
Fair, fair. What is a power that you wish you had?
Oh wow, power that I wish I had. Um, hmm, that's a hard one. A power I wish I had. You said it was rapid fire, and I don't have a rapid answer.
That's
uh,
okay. It doesn't have to be like super rapid.
I wish I could. I wish I could erase people's pain. Actually, erase it, um, rather than just try to comfort them.
I like that. I think it's very noble. Not in like a pandering way, just like genuinely noble.
Thank you. I don't see myself as that, but I appreciate the. I will take the compliment.
Speaking of fighting
Mm,
weird things,
mhm.
uh, would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
Well, as someone who specializes in sharpshooting, if I get to fight it from my usual distance, I'll take the one horse-sized duck. It's an easier target to hit.
Good answer. We haven't had any sharpshooters on the show yet, so I like the angle that you're approaching that with.
Yeah. I mean, it would require my terrain advantage. So without the distance, it doesn't work quite as well. But I could still probably hit a good point or two if it's one target versus many.
What if it was flying? Do you think a horse-sized duck could fly? That would be
That would be
crazy.
terrifying.
That would be terrifying.
But I think if it wasn't flying too high out of range, I might be able to hit it. But yeah, no, I don't know. That's if it flies, that's a scary thought.
Okay, I think we've had too many scary thoughts already. So, last question for you, Sybille. What advice would you give your player?
I would tell Lilith to relax in a way. She's a big ball of anxiety at all times, so maybe to calm down in a way. She doesn't compartmentalize like I do, but if she could learn to do so, I think it would help her.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much
My pleasure.
for talking with me. And we're gonna head back to Lilith if that's okay.
Yeah, it was a delight. Thank you.
Goodbye, Sybille.
Bye.
And hello, Lilith.
Hi.
So thank you so much, Lilith, for joining me on the show.
It's a
And
pleasure.
thanks so much, every one of you all, for listening to the podcast. The links to all of Lilith's stuff and to all of our socials and everything will be in the episode description. Is there anything that you would like to promote, Lilith?
So it's not out yet, but the Ravansile setting is something that I'm currently working on with the team. It should be out by 2020, at the end of 2025, beginning of 2026. So keep an eye
Ooh.
out for that because we'll be crowdfunding it. Basically, a Candela Obscura companion book for the setting of Otherwhere and other parts of the world than just New Fair.
Ooh, I like that.
Mm-hmm. I'm very excited about this
I'll
project.
be sure to keep an eye out for it. That's cool. I want to get the Candela Obscura book, so if I
really
have
good.
that
Mm-hmm.
by the time it comes out, I will definitely be trying to support it. If you want to support professional questers, the best thing you can do is leave a good review and spread the word. Tell your mom, tell your dad, tell your cousins, tell your friends, tell the guy on the street that you pass every day. And if you'd like, you can also donate through Ko-Fi. A single donation gets you access to all the very good bonus content and rewards, including bloopers, extra interviews, and character art done by yours truly. And I don't want to toot my own horn, but I like to think I'm a pretty good artist.
You're allowed to toot your horn.
Thank you. Thank you. You can also follow us on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok, and join the Professional Questers Discord community. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and I hope your adventures are always good ones. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.